What's up, everybody? Welcome to TeslaFix. Today we talk about a very important topic, and that's batteries. 4680 batteries, for example. How much do they produce? What's happening? Why is it so slow? That's ridiculous. Tesla hasn't produced many of those things. They are too slow. That's what I've heard in the last episode I did. People were kind of are still furious about Tesla, but we have to look at batteries in general. Do they have suppliers? Of course they have. And also, the Cybertruck is rusting. What is happening here? I thought it was stainless steel. We're going to look into that with a very nice friend of this channel. So, Brian, thanks for being on again here. Here's Brian from FutureAZA.
Well, I just want to say, first of all, 4680, what a disappointment. Look, we were trying to do something special here. We're trying to make the best battery in the best way possible. And the more new things you put into a first product, the more possibility there is for delay and difficulty. And that's what we're seeing. It's not just that it's a bigger can. You can make a bigger can, that's easy. And now it looks like Panasonic and LG will be making 4680s using the older style of manufacturing just to supplement Tesla's production of their 4680s while they get the last few things ironed out. The dry electrode coating process is proving challenging. The large rollers, it looks like they may have had some inability to get the thickness correct at the center. That can cause problems. The obstacles appear known. It appears they've gotten their way through some, if not all of them, and it's an opportunity to keep moving forward. We're trying to make something better in a way that it's never been done before, and that's a lot of work.
Absolutely. And of course, I wanted, maybe we can really start with the big deal that's a stainless steel Cybertruck is rusting. What the hell happens there? Can you please tell us what the hell is happening?
Yeah, one of life's great mysteries. Well, I waded into the cesspool that is Reddit to find all the big brains over there having no idea what they're talking about. Most of them are just angry clowns. They're jokers. They're kids in a lot of cases. But what happens is, they're using the wrong kind of stainless. Nah, stop. Just stop. This has been tested. No, what's happening is, if a piece of iron from something else, from another car, from a factory, from the truck in front of you, if those specks get onto your car, those specks can rust. If your car has a beautiful pearl white vinyl wrap and some metal shavings, little tiny dots of metal get onto it, you will find rust spots on your vinyl wrap. Does that mean vinyl rusts? No.
I thought it rusts.
Yeah, rusty plastic. No, and actually he's a good guy, Rusty Plastic. I think I went to school with him. I'm not sure. Yeah. I may be remembering it wrong. But they have no opportunity. You just got to wipe it off, just like you would on anything else. Have you ever seen concrete with rust stains on it?
Yeah, they're also out of metal, right?
Well, you will find rust stains on concrete from the rebar. Yeah. But even I've seen driveways that have no rebar that still have rust on them because iron exists. It exists. And so does water, which contains a fair amount of oxygen, twice as much as the hydrogen, I'm told. So it's pretty ridiculous. It's not a thing. It's not an issue. And the idea that this is, doom is ludicrous. This is a known metallurgy is not a new science. So I don't know what on earth they're thinking.
Yeah, I think, and if they use the wrong steel, they just could melt like kitchen knives, like there's where the stainless steel comes from. So I don't know what they are doing. I mean, they must be Tesla experts. Come on. I don't think so.
And the truth is, stainless steel isn't a thing. It's a bunch of possible things.
Exactly.
It's any kind of corrosion-resistant steel that's configured for maybe hardness, maybe flexibility, maybe corrosion resistance. It depends how you mix it. I have stainless steel in my kitchen. My kitchen is also full of harsh chemicals for cleaning, acids that go into foods, vinegar, things like that. And my kitchen has no rust. There's no rust on the stainless because despite the fact that these are, I salt my food. I use cleaning supplies. You would think if anything was going to damage stainless, a kitchen environment would do it. I don't know if you've ever worked in a kitchen, but those stainless steel countertops and everything that's stainless in there gets abused. I mean, just battered, and it's fine. It's stainless steel. It's what it's for. It's why they use it.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I would say a total nothing burger there. Wipe it off and go on with your life. So that's the big thing. Okay.
Some people have said, real quick on that, some people said, well, I tried Windex on it and that didn't work. Okay, is it a window? Because I don't know why you would try that. Cleaning supply called Barkeeper's Friend or Bartender's Friend or something like that. It's commonly, that's the name of the product, and it's commonly used in restaurants and bars because it's a great cleaner. You can apply a stain to anything. The idea that if I were to pour paint on my Cybertruck and then be annoyed that I had to use an actual cleaning product to remove it is similarly ridiculous.
Absolutely. So I agree. It's a nothing burger. Get the right cleaning supply and clean that thing. Or you can just polish it or brush it, however you want to do it.
Yeah.
It's your choice. You can do it with the stainless steel body. Leave
it.
Yeah.
Whatever you want, man.
Yeah. Or a rusty Cybertruck could be very cool, actually.
One of the articles pointed out, well, if you look in the Tesla manual, it says you need to be careful with tree sap and, bird poo and all these. It's the same word for word as it is in all the different Tesla models. They just didn't change it. Why would they? Do you need to change it? Please consider not getting tree sap on your car and leaving it there forever. That seems like a reasonable take to me.
Yeah, tree sap stains are horrible. They are so hard to remove. So I advise every car, it doesn't matter if it's stainless steel or anything else, to get tree sap is horrible. Yeah, I had that a couple of times. I don't know how it got there, but hey, I shouldn't have parked in Canada. Because of corn.
The maple. Someone poured maple syrup on your car. That's you got to watch out.
It's a common thing in Canada. Yeah,
it is.
All right. So getting into the real topic of today, the nothing burger side, and that's I want to start with this picture here, and then maybe you can just comment on what we are seeing here, because I want to get into Tesla batteries, of course, and the blade batteries. Are they structural? What's happening here? Maybe you can tell the audience.
We believe they are. This great post from Luca, who is the gigacasting guru. He is of the belief that the BYD blade battery in Berlin is a structural battery. We haven't seen confirmation of that, but I don't see why it couldn't be or wouldn't be. We know how the structural batteries are made. All it requires really is a slightly different housing and some polystyrene foam inside to make it structural. And all the pieces are there. Why wouldn't they be able to just begin doing this regardless of which battery type or supplier they're using? They could have a variety of structural battery packs. And the objective with the structural battery pack, of course, is to make it so that you don't have a redundant structure. If you look at the Ford Lightning, it has a big, heavy ladder-style frame.
Oh, geez, yeah.
And then it also has a battery, which also has its own structure. That's double the structure for no additional benefit. And so Tesla said, hey, might as well combine them into one and have one thing that does it both.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Also, airplanes, for example, have, of course, fuel in their wings. And this is also a thing that's how you store it. And that's also one of the reasons they got into that direction as well, with examples like that, like how these kinds of technologies work. So, Brian, I wanted to ask you, because the 4680 battery ramp seems to be problematic, at least. We've talked about that briefly in the last episode about Lee, and he from Tesla Economist, and he tracks everything and super furious about this. I mean, he had some points, like it's slowed. It's not as easy as it was, but this is a new battery concept they are doing. It's difficult, right? And what's your opinion on that?
So I had a chance to talk. I got to attend a presentation held at a Tesla location for the Tesla Owners Club of Oregon, where Jen Gowdy talked. Jen Gowdy is a service center coordinator there and a former Cato Road battery engineer. She knew perfectly well who I was, and to be very guarded with answers. And what I asked is, we've seen since 2-3 years ago announcements from virtually every manufacturer that they are going to begin working on the 4680 form factor.
Yep.
If you type in the name Panasonic or Samsung or any of them plus 4680, you'll see some announcement going back years with very few exceptions. And I said, but we know as of like a month or two ago that at least Panasonic at their Oklahoma location had stepped back a bit from the 4680 and was going to instead produce more 2170 cells. I said, is there something particularly vexing about this form factor, not specific to Tesla, but specific to these other companies, that makes it inherently challenging? And she said, I can't answer that either. That would divulge too much. How dare you, good sir? So I don't get those answers, but what my take on it is the fact that you do have, if you were to unroll the roll from a 4680 versus any other battery, you'd find it's probably, like a little mini pizza size kind of length. It is quite long and quite wide, longer and wider than any of the other cells that it competes against. And if there's a problem anywhere on that surface, you can't use it. You have to throw it out. So I'm concerned that the greater surface area has led to a higher probability of failure, which makes the equipment that much more difficult to configure, dial in, and get perfected.
So the yields are not as,
Yeah, so either the yields are low, or that just getting it so that the yields aren't low. No, the yields are very good, but it took us forever to get it sorted out. I think that's the potential problem there, because that would make sense across all manufacturers.
Yeah, and I think the concern that many people had in the beginning especially was that Tesla announced at Battery Day or that it's going to be also a structural element and stuff like this. And they talked about the 4680 specifically in this process of a structural battery pack. Now we have news like this, for example, or you can see that now they might already use blade batteries as a structural battery pack, 2170s as a structural battery pack. Wait a second. They can use every battery for a structural battery pack. So this is already off the table. They can do that. And yeah, what's your opinion on that? I'm super curious.
So I don't see why they couldn't. Now with blade, I think it might be more challenging because the shape is different. They're not lined up in a honeycomb shape. But 2170s, why couldn't you? And if that's the case, maybe we'll see a 2170 version of the Cybertruck as well. Maybe that becomes the single motor version. I don't see why they couldn't do that. I think that would be a perfectly reasonable solution. 2170s are smaller than 4680s, so it's not like they would run out of room to put them. So I don't know. I think that's a very strong possibility. And if somebody in the comments wants to tell us why couldn't you use different batteries in a structural battery? The 2170s, I don't think you could convince me would not be good enough because they're so similar to the 4680. But other ones like blades or prismatic or something else, big old pouches, I don't think you're going to make a structural pouch. But, let me know in the comments. I'd be curious.
Yeah. Absolutely. And Elon Musk, if you're in the comments again, lurking around, please just answer the goddamn question with all of your fake accounts. Come on, man. You're not fooling anyone. I know who you are. No. But but I think it's an interesting topic because sometimes also, like we had with the stainless steel before with the problematic there, and people kind of tend to forget that Tesla has one of the or the best engineers worldwide. The lists they're still top ranking in the lists of engineers that want to join there. They have millions of applications in a week. So they're super attracting so much talent. It's ridiculous not to see that they can solve something like this. It takes longer. Maybe FSD, for example, is also a great example, prime example. When Elon Musk talks especially for Europe, for example, if Elon Musk talks about, hey, we have FSD 12 is around the corner. It is already released since December, by the way, guys. So you haven't heard? So no, it's still ongoing. And before we see something like this in Europe or a global rollout, this is a total different story because our roads are different. It has to be still trained, and those end-to-end things are also very difficult. It could take even years. who cares? It will come eventually because the things we already saw are pretty impressive, and that's the move in the right direction. I've even did the sorry. Please answer it before
I was just going to throw in there that I've been deeply skeptical of FSD beta, but I am still very excited for version 12 because it is different, and some of the strengths of version 11 that we've seen in videos is that it was really configured with the streets where it was tested in mind, with that city in mind, where version 12 is expected to be awfully good kind of everywhere. And if my town goes from the experience I had on version 11 to a version 12 experience similar to what channels like Whole Mars blog see, then I'm going to be very impressed and very excited.
Absolutely. So I think the approach that it can take time, but I think they're going to solve it. Also the 2170 battery packs. So how bullish are you that they're going to adjust it and can get more yields? How disappointed were they actually? That's also a question that I have. Is it disappointing or not? So what's your take?
My take is it's definitely disappointing. I think they were expecting to have, when they first announced, we produced our millionth or 10 millionth cell from Cato Road, my take was I was gutted. I thought for sure that they were far ahead of that by then. And then when they had their 20 millionth cell or whatever, it was a big, exciting announcement. And, you just crunch the numbers. You divide it by 5,000, you realize that's not very many cars worth. We need a lot more. We know that they wanted to get to a 4680 structural battery for the Model Y in Texas all along. They only made a handful of thousands of those, maybe 10,000, 20,000 at most, before discontinuing it and saying, no, we're going to save up these batteries and put them in the Cybertruck. So the plan was that Texas would be entirely self-sufficient with 4680s, and that all of the 2170s made in Nevada could be used for the cars in Fremont, and that would make it easier for more cars to qualify under the IRA. And the reason we're seeing some cars that don't is because the cells were not made in the U.S. because there just isn't enough capacity yet. So personally, very disappointed.
In that case, also it makes sense that other suppliers like Panasonic steps in, because what does Tesla want? Like I've heard, batteries from everybody in the best those form factors, of course, that they use, but still, they want to order all the batteries they can get their hands on.
Yeah, please continue making more batteries. We will buy them. If you have a good battery, we will buy it. And other companies have struggled with some of these manufacturers. I know LG had a problem with their batteries that went into the Chevy Bolt, but LGs have been going into Tesla cars since 2019. No issue. And I think it's a disconnect between the engineers at LG and the engineers at Ford or GM that caused the problem. So we know that, if you're LG, we buy. BYD, we buy. Panasonic, of course. I'm not aware of any Samsung batteries being used in a Tesla yet, though I could be mistaken, but they will buy from anybody who has good batteries. And there is no shortage of suppliers, it seems, willing to allow that. And when you've got big companies saying, we're going to have all these cars in 2024, 25, and then they say, actually make it 25, 26, that frees up a lot of resources for these companies to say, why were we working with these jokers in the first place? Call Tesla, see if they need some batteries, because we've got all this equipment and it's going to be idle because we reserved this capacity for a car that isn't coming out yet, if it ever does at all.
Absolutely. And of course, with the Samsung batteries, maybe Tesla's a little bit scared when they put that into the Cybertruck, for example, that it's going to be so bloated afterwards that it looks like a Model S stainless steel version, a strange thing because it just puffed up. So that's...
And I hope that's something Samsung has a problem with only on their pouch batteries. I don't know. It surely someone at Samsung knows what the issue is and how to resolve it. And I'm hopeful that the newer Samsung phones, the 22s and newer, will not suffer this long-term issue where the batteries begin to swell, because that is not something that should be happening across your entire product line. That's the last thing you want, is for somebody to go in the long-term parking garage at the airport and come back a month later to find that their car's gone. That would be a problem.
Yeah, and also, why not use pouch cells? Because of that reason? Is it because the danger of inflating batteries?
So pouch cells do have expansion issues, but I think the bigger reason would be that you can't make a structural battery with a pouch.
Yeah.
A structural pouch would be hilarious and a terrible idea. So I guess that means Ford will be doing it next.
Yeah. Yeah, that could be. Yeah. So how do you see the future of the technology of the batteries? I mean, for example, BYD. Now we have to talk about BYD because the Blade batteries also go in the Model 3 Highland, for example. Also the LFP variants into the LFP variants, of course, and also in the 2170 form factor and the Blade batteries. And now we kind of seen here, like we've looked at before, that this could be a structural battery pack with the Blade batteries. Yeah, talking about BYD here, because the form factor, like I said before, is different. People said, oh, this is the answer of BYD to the 2170s. And now, yeah, Tesla, of course, will buy everything they can get their hands on. And also the CEO of BYD announced, gonna partner with Tesla or have a strong partnership, and did that publicly, which is a good sign as well. Yeah. What do you think about
what
that?
we're seeing is there's a lot of good BYD information out in the last couple of weeks. The idea is that if everybody else is pulling back, we have seen battery costs at the cell level drop sharply in China to like $65 per kilowatt hour, which is very, very good. That means your whole car, you're talking $5,000. But then, of course, you still have to make it into a pack, which is significantly more expensive. That's a big chunk of the cost. BYD is looking to open battery factories in Mexico, and they're not alone. Everybody wants some part of the North American market. If your battery is made in Mexico and you've got your minerals are sourced in North America, you should be eligible for that battery credit of $10 per kilowatt hour. And if it's the whole battery, it could be as much as $45 a kilowatt hour. Now your $5,000, $6,000 battery is $3,000. Maybe $4,000 at the pack level for the entire pack. The car just got 10-15% cheaper to build. That's going to be huge. And there are not many companies who have the technical ability to make their own batteries. Apart from partnerships, if you're Ford and you're going to partner with the SK Innovations, you're going to say, which one of us gets that battery credit? That's going to be negotiated. If you're BYD, you get the credit. You are the battery maker and the car maker. So the real competition from BYD isn't because they make a better car cheaper. They make a car that's quite good, that's reasonably priced. It's because that battery credit is going to make their car vastly cheaper, vastly cheaper. And they're not going to have much in terms of competition in North America for battery production in the automotive sector, who also makes cars apart from Tesla. And Tesla is struggling to get to BYD's kind of output.
Absolutely. BYD had such a great growth story. They also had experience with battery production before. They made smartphone batteries, or also battery packs like power banks, for example, as well. And we're a huge producer of that. And of course, the knowledge of car production. So those fused together make a great competitor of Tesla, let's say, but they also partner. How do you see those signals that they are partnering and not being declaring competition? Because of course Tesla is a huge customer. It's one of the biggest customers of BYD. Why should they say competition? And I mean, they have a friendly competition.
Yeah, they're not afraid. And I know you and I have discussed this before, but if BYD tried to go it alone, if there was no Tesla, if there were no other companies pushing, they couldn't. You need the charging infrastructure. You need all the support that goes with the EV industry. And the more EV acceptance there is, regardless of brand, the easier it will be for BYD to sell in the future. BYD has some problems with their cars, as I see it. There was a great video, I want to say it was CarWow did, comparing the BYD Seal to the Model 3 refresh. And what they found is, it's a good car. But at the end of the day, it's 800 pounds heavier. That's insane. That's too much. But if that's the reason you think they'll fail, I've got news for you. they're going to figure that out. They will be dropping pounds every month for the next 3 years until they get a car that is pretty much comparable to what's on the road. It's like in the early days when people said, boy, if Tesla can't sort out their panel gaps, I'd never buy one. Great. So what you're saying is, as soon as they sort that out, which they have, you will buy one. Guess what? It's now a pretty big seller. So you were correct. And I have seen early Model Ys, and there are gaps that I would personally find unacceptable. But it's a brand new car. There's a auto shop that's in California that specializes in straightening brand new cars. And a good example he gave in the shop is he showed, I don't remember if it was a McLaren, some $1 million car.
Yeah. I've seen that, yeah.
Have you seen it? And he opens the door,
yeah,
and you can see it's rubbing the paint on a $1 million car. Well, I would expect more for $45,000. I'd expect more for $1 million. But and so they just bend it and tweak it.
Or the screws were loose in the engine area and stuff like this.
I think that's the same video,
It vibrated up or something from delivery, or I don't know what happened. So absolutely crazy.
So these are known things. Not everyone has the kind of tight tolerances that you would expect from Lexus, for example. Lexus, I don't know if they still have the same reputation, but for the longest time, famously the tightest cars. Apparently, the CEO of GM, there's an old story about how they bought a Lexus LS400 when they first hit the market, and he brought it into the Cadillac engineers and said, what would it cost for us to build this car? And the answer was, we can't. We can't build it. Not at any price. We can't build this car. There's things to be sorted out. And people discounting Toyota because their EVs so far have been so hilariously bad miss the fact that Toyota still has good engineers if they decide to get serious. And I'm not going to say when, because I'm not convinced yet. But if they decide to get serious, they will make a good car, and that'll be good for everyone. I hope they have some idea where they intend to get the batteries, because just taking the number of batteries they have now for hybrids is not going to be enough to make. Well, you'd have to cut your production by 80%, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's a tough game there to play. And they're going to improve. And it's true. The seal is was perceived also in Germany was, of course, horribly from the perspective of the legacy automotive companies that sit here. I mean, Mercedes is in Stuttgart and Wolfsburg, VW, for example, and BMW, of course, in Munich, a big thing. And if you have your car, we had this car show, the IAA, and the International Auto Show in Munich. It was last year, and there the Chinese were so present, it was ridiculous. They had a bigger booth than VW, for example, and stuff like this. So it was huge. And there, the first time they kind of noticed, the Chinese invasion kind of is coming. I mean, it was a strong term, but this was run through the news. And those are really competitors to watch out for. And those scared the legacy brands even more than Tesla. I don't know. But it's interesting to see that, for example, with the weights, like what you said, it's an interesting topic to look into.
Do you see many BYDs on the road?
No.
But you've seen Fiskars, haven't you?
I think I've seen one. No.
Because they're not made far from you.
Yeah, I've seen some. Maybe one Fisker I can recall. Yeah, I think I saw one time. Somewhen. Whenever, yeah.
I've seen 2 in the wild.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I do not have high hopes for them. Their idea of outsourcing all the manufacturing to Magna is costly, doesn't scale well, but the alternative is they would need billions of dollars to build a factory and a team capable of building a factory. And it's too many moving parts. I don't see a path to them being able to raise the kind of money it would take quickly enough to make it work.
Absolutely. And one question I have is when BYD is locating in Mexico, I've heard that right now the administration that is running the U.S. right now is like, okay, what's happening here? They were thinking about reforming this law that they or the incentive. And have you heard something about that? What's happening there? Or if it's serious, because I think the date they were announcing was pushed so far that they kind of already have the big factory there. And then they're going to reform afterwards. And then it maybe doesn't matter anymore so much. Yep.
It's going to be about impossible. I expect to hear politicians at every level making empty promises about preventing Chinese autos from hitting our roads. We already have Chinese autos on the road. Polestar is a Chinese brand, and they do sell in the U.S. And there is no legal mechanism I'm aware of that would allow them to target Chinese companies. You can say, well, the company has to be headquartered on the continent. Great. BYD of North America is now the company making it. Happy? Well, they can't be majority owned, buddy. There are endless workarounds. If you want, the Ford Mach-E is made in Mexico. That qualified in 2023 under the IRA rules, even though it's not made in the U.S. We are free trade partners with Canada and Mexico. Unless you want to unwind the entire treaty, which is not impossible, but remember, this isn't NAFTA anymore, the one created in the 90s. This is the USMCA, which was only created, 4 years ago? So it is brand new, maybe 5, but very, very recently. And they did what they could to put in as many protectionist policies as possible while still being a legal document. And it was difficult to get it done as it was. And we have a saying in English for things that are very difficult. We say that would require an act of Congress, but this actually would.
Okay, interesting. So I think now the question begs me is, okay, why Mexico? I mean, I kind of know the answer already because, of course, Mexico has different trade agreements with different countries that the U.S. doesn't have trade agreements with, and they can get cheaper parts there and produce cheaper parts. Many people or many car suppliers are already located there. So it's a strategic place. It's almost like China 2.0 in that sense, that there is everything you need. And they have great trade agreements with many, many countries all over the world. And they could cater that. So my question now is going back to the battery topic and sewing the episode kind of together here is the compact car that Tesla will produce there and BYD being there, and which battery cell actually will be there and why Mexico. Maybe you can go into that a little bit.
Yes, those 9 topics will be very easy.
Easy, one answer. One sentence.
Of course, in 8 words. Oh, for crying out loud. Mexico makes sense. Labor is cheaper, but labor is such a small part of the cost of your car. That's why Tesla chose to go to Germany, where labor rates are quite high, but the experience and expertise more than make up for it. Why Europe at all? BYD is building a factory in Hungary. That gets them inside the European Union, but in a place where labor costs are low. You might get your permits fast-tracked. You might have a lot more political will to have you there than BYD would, say, in Germany or France or Italy, or somewhere that has a robust domestic auto industry. Mexico, same thing. They've got a lot of parts already come from Mexico. A lot of cars already come from Mexico. They have the expertise. They have the low labor. They likely have the political will. They have the ability to export to 50 countries with no trade restrictions. The entire Trans-Pacific Partnership, the North American Free Trade Agreement, and a lot of Latin. There's a big Latin America trade agreement. They're in that as well. So they can export those to just about anywhere without having to face the big import and export taxes that go along with it. So all the pieces are there. The only piece that seems to be missing is the safety factor. There are dangerous parts of Mexico, and some of them are near to the places that these factories are. For the most part, the Cartels are happy to leave business alone because the only people who are scarier than mobsters are corporations. And you can look at the history of Las Vegas for that. Anytime someone would try and move in on the mob, they'd get pushed out until the corporation showed up. And corporations don't care. If you want to threaten a CEO until he quits, that's great. But there's another guy ready to take his spot and he don't care. We'll keep going. And so the corporations were the only ones able to muscle the mob out of Vegas. And it's crazy because they are somehow scarier and more heartless. You can't scare a corporation with anything except dollars, and they have more than us. So there's a lot of reason to think that these companies would be able to exist kind of outside of any fear of cartel stuff. So there's almost all upsides and only a couple of glaring downsides to building a factory in Mexico.
So this sums it up to the export, and it makes a lot of sense. So the big question again for me is the batteries. Late batteries, what do you think goes into the $25,000 car, since you must be a fortune teller depicting those very precise, all of the blue numbers that sometimes pop up. I assume you already know, but no. But let's see how.
I would be very surprised if I don't know. I believe the answer is they're going to be using locally sourced LFP batteries, maybe not blade, but some kind of LFP battery, because the cost is reasonable, the charge cycle is reasonable, the fact that you can juice to 100 means you don't need as big of a battery to get the same range, even though it's going to be heavier. The fact that it'll be cheaper will more than offset it. And I assume BYD would be providing at least some of those batteries, but there are plans from other battery manufacturers to get busy in Mexico and also in southern states of America, which could also provide the cells.
And again, also, that's an interesting point you did there. LFP to go into the 25K car. You heard it here first. If Brian is off, write a hate comment down below, please. And go over to his channel and subscribe as protest, and comment and like his videos as a protest, or ironically. Please do that.
I did have a very funny one. When you stop supporting someone on Patreon, it says, would you like to leave a reason why? And a guy left a message saying, I didn't like such and such, whatever it was he didn't like. And then I looked and saw that he had been a patron for how long? A day.
I don't. Okay.
So he gave me $1 to quit in protest. And I was like,
okay.
Cool.
Well, I hope I get this one as a channel subscriber here, please. Yeah, but so back to business here a little bit. I wanted to ask you, since the 25K car in Mexico, I mean, okay, they can export it. Will this car category will be popular in the US? That's something I would want to know.
Will compacts be popular in the US? Yes. When Ford was selling the Focus, it was their low-cost, it was their cheap car. It was their compliance car. Nobody loved it, but everybody bought it because it was cheap. And yeah, it's small, but it still had 4 or 5 seats, a normal amount. You're just in a little tight. If you need an SUV, you don't need 2 SUVs. You need one and something more reasonable. Yeah. And the reason compacts are not more popular in the US is because there just aren't any available for sale. Companies here love to, when they step down to something that they kind of don't want to sell, they'll make it ugly on purpose or gutless on purpose. But if you've got a compact car that still has Tesla DNA, that's still peppy and fun and has good sound, it would sell, I'm confident, like crazy.
Especially with FSD in the picture, of course. I mean, that's the big deal. I also saw a similar kind of adaptation of the Smart, for example. The Smart in Europe was super popular, despite being a super small car. And in Germany, we have this weird hatch. Is it a hatchback? I'm not sure how even the category is called in English. It's like those long cars with with the flat, it leaves over, it hangs over, like the Volvo, for example, this famous old Volvo, the
station wagon.
The station, yeah, exactly. The station wagon category is super popular, and long cars, big, like SUVs as well, and stuff like this. So what a Smart, a 2-seater, what the heck? Yeah, this was also popular, of course.
And it wasn't cheap. The Smart 4 was not.
No.
I expected it to be a cheap car based on how wildly impractical it seemed to be, and it wasn't.
Okay, yeah, that's absolutely true. I also could see that in the US this could be adapted as a second car. I also, if the 25K car comes out, would be the big car is the Model 3 Highland, and the smaller car, that's the second car, I would say. I think it's a good thing. And let's see if it has 4 seats or just 2 seats. I think it will have 4 seats or 3, like 5-seater. I'm not sure, but if I would say
so too.
A 4-seater in that sense. I could see that. Something where you have just one door, you pop it open, and then you can just get the seats. Who knows? Who knows?
That was a very popular thing on cars for a very long time. Don't see it as much anymore.
Yeah.
Then again, passengers have gotten chubbier.
Okay. Okay. That's that. But especially when they don't move the things in the car anymore, they will getting more and more chubby if this thing drives itself. So maybe not for the US, or we don't know, but just a small joke. But looking at the battery technology and wrapping everything up together now, how do you see the trajectory of Tesla? Are they in danger because of the 4680s? You also already said it's disappointing, but it will take time. What's your take on the battery tech and the strategy Tesla's doing, also with BYD in the picture here?
I think all of it is between no news and some of it is good news. I would say the fact that it's taking longer is disappointing, but even if they were fully ramped on 4680s, they'd still be buying tons and tons of batteries from anyone who can provide them with a quality cell. I think BYD is exceptionally well postured. I had an interview with Sandy Munro about 1.5 years ago now, where I said, 10 years out, ignoring Tesla, who's at the top of the board? And he said, BYD, no two ways about it. They're vertically integrated. They make as many, if not more, of their own components as Tesla. And they're still getting up to speed. But again, they will iron out those inefficiencies. They will get their cars lighter. I think the styling is already good. I think the BYD Seal is a compelling looking car, certainly better than most of the competition. It looks cool, I think. And so, there's going to be a lot of opportunity for these, for anyone who's being serious about EVs to actually do it. I'm more concerned for companies like Ford and GM, who have assured us for 10 years that they're going to have a dozen EVs in a year or two, maybe 3, 4, and they just never come, because what they found is they are not good at selling EVs without losing a bunch of money.
Especially in the lower price segment, it's super difficult for them to keep price parity or break even. They even lose money on most of the cars. Like, for example, also the famous competitor that is backed from Saudi Arabia, where the CEO is paid the amount of the whole valuation almost of the whole company. So who am I talking about?
Peter Rawlinson was just approved to get another bonus a few days ago. He got another $10 million.
Sure, why not?
Why not?
Maybe.
Why not? What do we do here anyway? What do we? Because we're not selling cars. We're not doing that. We lose so much money per car that the easiest way to lose less money is to sell fewer cars.
Or
and if
burn money.
And if there's one thing Lucid is good at, it is selling fewer cars. They have some serious problems. I made a video about that recently where I discussed how they are putting aside something like $4,500 for every car they sell to cover warranty repairs. That is probably triple the industry average. It is not a figure you wish to see, and they've got problems. But Peter doesn't. He's got money.
Hey, he's covered. That's the most important thing in Lucid. So you invest in that guy, actually, not in the company. Gives me Trevor Milton vibes right now if he is paid so good. Sadly, he left Tesla. So, but yeah.
Well, and his big claim to fame is, I designed the least efficient mass-produced car Tesla's ever made. The first generation, where all the things in the body eventually did have to be replaced in later versions. That was me. I made all the things that they replaced. Cool. I guess. Cool.
Absolutely. So, Brian, the last question for the end of the episode is, what battery technology do you think will go into the Roadster that we haven't seen so far? Again, it was lost. Maybe it will be found someday, but hopefully not just the Roadster that's shot up to space. But yeah, what's your take? What do you think? Just a free ball answer here.
I don't think it'll be LFP because the battery density, the energy density for the weight, it's just not there. I don't think it'll be 4680s because I am not convinced that that is a better power density package than you can get from the 2170s.
They still have to, they have to improve. Like the 40% reduction that they were talking about, or increase, I mean, of efficiency in that sense that Tesla announced on Battery Day is not here.
It's not here yet. So they've got, that leaves us with 2170 or 18650, both of which are good batteries. I was just sure the 18650s were done when the when the models S and X of the first generation were discontinued. I thought they would come back with 2170s or 4680s, and they did not. So that battery still has opportunity to be used, but I'd be surprised. I think the 2170 is the most likely candidate today. If the Roadster takes another 3-4 years, then it could be 4680.
Okay. So
and it's going to be a high nickel chemistry because that is where all the bang for the buck is, and they need to squeeze every last watt, every last milliamp they can out of it.
Okay, interesting. So maybe in the comments you can write what you think will be in the Roadster, which battery technology. Yeah, if it's maybe a hybrid, who knows?
Maybe it's
with
steam
rocket fuel,
powered.
Of course. Maybe it also rusts like the Cybertruck. Oh, God. Okay, Brian, so thank you very much for being on. And now for the end, you can just you plug your stuff. Is a book coming out? Are you releasing your memoirs finally? Or how is your horse doing? You have a horse farm as well, so
I just found out that I have a horse farm. That's interesting, yeah. No, I don't have a horse farm, but I've got some dogs, and they're doing great, and I'm glad you asked. Big news coming up is by the time you see this, I will have been to see the Cybertruck in person. That'll be happening that happened on Sunday the 18th in the early morning. So I might have live streamed it. I will have tried to. I know that much. What else is going on? Well, it turns out that I'm getting to see a factory tour in Fremont soon.
Nice.
I use my referral credits. Thank you guys for using my referral link. I'm going to be seeing the Fremont factory tour. Finally, only took a few minutes to get that figured out. Very exciting. And then in May, I'm going to be at the X Takeover with Jan and a bunch of other awesome folks. In fact, John from Tesla Owner Silicon Valley is going to be flying out for it. So that'll be awesome. And then in June, I'm going to be going to Michigan, and I'm going to see just how many people I can drag to that. Might be some people. Do you know any of the names we've got lined up?
This guy who owns a Tesla Model 3 Highland from Germany, he announced a review that he didn't publish so far.
You still haven't published it. So Lars will be there. Lars from Best in Tesla will be there. But Jan will also be there.
Yeah.
We've got Dr. Know-It-All will be there. The bearded Tesla guy. Kyle from Out of Spec will be there. Dirty Tesla will be there. It looks as though Sandy Monroe will also be there. I'm pretty sure when we asked for the bio and photo of the speaker that is coming, we got a picture of Sandy. So that's very exciting.
Yeah.
And there's more names too. Bradford Ferguson will be there. Matt Smith, also from Rebellionaire, will be there. We've got some great folks, and it's very exciting.
Awesome. Check it out, everybody. And, of course, follow FutureAZA. And thank you very much for watching. And there's only one last thing to say to the audience now, and that's goodbye, everybody.
Wasn't this episode awesome? Let's accelerate the pace of innovation by subscribing to TeslaFix. It is my absolute favorite channel on the whole interwebs.